Well, hey everybody. I hope that this video finds you safe and healthy. A lot of you guys know that this is not quite my style, but in a time like this, I thought it might be worth it for me to hope to bring a little bit of encouragement and hope. I'd like to just share how Jesus changed my life. As many of you know, I did not grow up religious or spiritual really at all. My God was football, and remained my God for a really long time, even into high school. Went to Arlington Lamar High School. Viking fight never dies. Shout out to all my Vikes out there. And we experienced a lot of success on the football field the last 2 years of my high school career. And at the end of high school, kind of got just a hard message, a unexpected thing from our family, and it really challenged me in every way and kind of sent me into a little bit of a tailspin. I accepted a football scholarship to go to Southeast Missouri State, and 6 days before I went to a fraternity recruitment party in downtown Dallas, and I remember very little of that night. I woke up the next morning at Baylor Medical in downtown Dallas with 8 staples in my head and a neck brace on. I'd torn my MCL, and I remember waking up in the hallway, looking at the ceiling and thinking to myself, what's my life really about? Like, what am I living for? And it was the first time I'd ever contemplated the reality that my life is really fragile. So I went into college, and still honestly, on the outside, many people would have thought I was happy and successful and full, but inside I was really honestly empty and searching and hopeless. And I'll never forget our team chaplain on my football team. He sat down at the cafeteria table, and he asked me a question, and he said, Kendall, if you were to die today, how sure are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that you would go to heaven? And I was kind of like, who's this guy? And in time, I began to think about the question because of what had just happened to me months earlier. I got to play my freshman year of football, and so regained some of my confidence. And I'll never forget going out it was my birthday evening, and my freshman year, first semester, just 4 months after I'd already gotten into some trouble. And I woke up the next morning in a jail cell with an orange jumpsuit on, and I had landed myself in jail that night. And so in a matter of 4 months, I had some circumstances that came into my life that really sobered me up, and it was in the midst of that I began to start studying the Bible for the very first time. And honestly, I learned 2 things that ruined my life, and then 1 thing that changed my life. The first thing I learned that ruined my life was that God actually holds people accountable for what they do, and that the second thing is that there's actually a penalty for sin, that the penalty for sin is death. It's eternal separation from God. And man, that ruined my life. I thought about all the things that I had done over the course of my life, and to think that God would actually hold me accountable for them was awful news. The thing that changed my life was, for the very first time, I felt like my ears opened up and my heart was a bit softened to hearing about what Jesus had done for me on the cross, dying in my place and for my sin, to take the penalty that I deserved and to offer me eternal life. And so 2 years after kind of beginning this spiritual journey, my road came to a kind of fork, if you will, and I had the decision to make of whether or not I was going to follow Christ or continue living for myself. And honestly, it was the lowest time of my life. I felt so desperate for more. I had football and success and friendships and other things like that, but inside I was crumbling. I was empty. I was searching. I was purposeless. And I really just sensed that God's love for me was too strong to resist, and that his forgiveness that he offered me was exactly what I truly needed. And so March 20th, 2007, I surrendered my life to Christ, and honestly, that's when everything got really weird. I started to see my passions and desires change. I started singing songs to Jesus and making decisions that were really just honestly so different and awkward. I had a friend come up to me and say, "Man, what's wrong with you?" And the only explanation I had then, and still have today, is that God is real and he changed my life. So if you're listening to this now, in the midst of this pandemic, and you find yourself searching for life and purpose and meaning, I want to encourage you to consider what God actually might be using this season for in your life, and how he might be wanting to show you his immeasurable love and grace to forgive people like me, and to take you wherever you might be, no matter how broken or busted up or empty your life might be. Jesus, he takes lives like ours, and he forgives us of our sin, and he changes them. And so I hope that this is a word of encouragement to many of you. And if you do have a relationship with Christ, I'd encourage you to take the time, even as we have it, to share about how Jesus changed your life.